Hey, what's up? I'm back with another video. So now I want to talk about Zack Snyder destroying DC Comics. You might say, wait a minute, that's kind of crazy. Look at Man of Steel, all those others, but look at the discourse that ensued and followed with Zack Snyder. It did the most damage to the DC brand. Now, Man of Steel did over what? Over 600, right? Over 600 million, same as James Gunn Superman, but coming in, it was a much easier route coming in to DC Comics. Remember, this was coming off the Dark Knight trilogy, and also Nolan was also a co-writer for the strip as well with Goyer. So Zack Snyder had an easy go, but forget all of that. But you just look, if you look back and look after Zack left, things that happened, whatever, put DC in a bad spot, which they're still trying to recover from. And James Gunn has to step over other people's mess unfairly. But it's a lot of heaping praise that's given Zack Snyder. He might be a good director. Maybe he is, right? I'm not saying Man of Steel wasn't a good movie. I enjoyed the Man of Steel movie, but he did the most harm to the DC brand, if you ask me, because now it's like he can. How would I say this? He was an instrument of a civil war between DC, right? And what Superman should be and stuff. And so now all that discourse had once he was going, now it was a big negative discourse and stuff. Oh, whatever, right? And so when you're looking back on the DCEU, whatever, they was trying to go and catch Marvel, and look at this. They only had $1 billion film. It wasn't a Zack Snyder film. It was Aquaman. We also look at this, Wonder Woman performed better than Man of Steel. Those are just the facts, though. And you look at what they made. Now, Man of Steel, it did make a profit, but you had Shazam made more profit than Man of Steel. Obviously, Wonder Woman, right? So Zack Snyder, to me, you ask me, he's overrated. And they say, well, we want James Gunn out of here, this and that. But you look, James Gunn has brung stability to the DCU. Animation shows, TV shows, whether you like them or not, that's subjective. I'm not here trying to convince you what you should like. But if we just look at the numbers, it was hard to pull up a Superman movie and somewhat be successful and make a profit. That was hard to do with the state with the DC has been in. James Gunn accomplished that, and now you're getting all these so-called Snyder fans restore the Snyderverse. That'll be the biggest, biggest idea you could do if you want to lose money, because people, the ones that are left, they're not coming back necessarily to see the Snyderverse. They want to see something new, something fresh. And James Gunn, whether you like it or not, he has been doing different stuff, not the same old stories, whatever. He's kind of mixing it up a little bit, whatever. And so to bring back the Snyderverse or restore it, we passed to 2013. We moved on. Post pandemic, we're here, and let's bring some fresh, good ideas, stuff that we haven't seen on a big screen, and like live action movies like Brainiac. We haven't seen that, So I'm excited to see where DC is going. But Zack Snyder, keep him away, I would say, from mainline DCU. Like now, as far as him doing an Elsewhere's title, fine. All means like the Man of Steel should have been an Elsewhere movie. If you're really asking me, I'm being honest with you. So you just look at once Zack Snyder left DC with that project he had with Netflix on Rebel Moon, like uninspiring, nothing to write home about, didn't really do well. And my question was actually, what major studios, what we heard from Zack Snyder, where has been his movies at, right? Since leaving DC, where has been his movies? That we've seen movies come forth from James Gunn since he's left Marvel, but Zack Snyder, what has he been doing? Just posting stuff on his Instagram, valid in the past, but like, why not post more stuff on Rebel Moon? That was just the most recent project he did. Now I'm hearing he's supposed to have working on some other movie, but you already hear about it. Now. I know Christopher Nolan, he has a movie coming out. The Odyssey, well, that's coming out. But what's Zack Snyder been up to? What has he been doing? So keeping away from DCU. Now those Snyder, those are small minority group, small, right? Grand scheme of things, they don't really matter now. Kudos to the ones that was like helping to save children lives, but it still don't negate the fact that they was bad. They do a whole lot of talking, don't really show up to movies. Stop supporting the DC brand, really. Outside of Zack Snyder, they don't support the DC brand, and you don't want that type of really bring back that type of fan base. Like, let them enjoy what they enjoying now. That's good. But the true DC, they are not true DC fans, the Snyderverse people. They're not. It's just Zack Snyder. And you see certain these group of people making billboards, like when you call for someone to fire, doing hashtag fire James Gunn. It's crazy, like that. But hey, I respect the time that Zack Snyder, what he tried to do, but as far as the DCU, for me, it wasn't really a good route. Where he was taken away from the lore of what is Superman and stuff like that. He had his own take like that, but for like a mainline, that's not to me the Superman. Elsewhere Superman story, yeah, by all means, but for how a mainline Superman should be and stuff, that wasn't it. So yeah, and just let's look at it. Like the Batman, right? Now Batman, I guess you could say was like cool, it was okay, but Superman, Batman definitely should did much better than it did at the box office. And like I said, you look at the picture, with the screen, the picture I'm showing y'all. The best movie, the best performing movie for us grossing was Aquaman, and probably I would put Wonder Woman. The first Wonder Woman was probably, I would say, probably you could say it was like better than Man of Steel, but performed better, definitely performed better. Right, and I didn't watch a whole lot of the Flash, but a lot of these movies they was okay, but they was going after Marvel, so we look at that, they failed miserably going against the MCU, and it's all set DC back. And a lot of times they try to say, well, the DCEU or the Snyderverse, whatever, they try to say, well, only the Zack Snyder films matter. But remember, they are still DCEU movies. The Man of Steel started off the DCEU, right? DC, extended universe. It started off, so you can't just take one out. So that was a part of it, and he really, at the end of the day, Zack Snyder's universe, whatever you want to call it, DCEU, whatever, it failed. It failed DC in the long run. Maybe not initially, but in the long run, it failed. It failed. I don't care about some Justice League Snyder cut 4 hours, like even if it was on streaming, I'm not going to watch something that's 4 hours on streaming. I'm not doing it just one movie, just 4 hours. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to fall asleep trying to watch that. No. And so Zack Snyder was a mistake for the DC Comics. That was a mistake because, like I said, we could have had Nolan do it. He could have done a real good Superman movie, to mainline toy or stuff like that. Understand the character, the core of the character. This Superman, Man of Steel, you look at it, he felt kind of robotic. Superman's not really robotic. He's more cheerful, and how Superman is, right? And so I believe James Gunn Superman was more a truer interpretation of Superman from the comic books, if we're being honest. That's what. Now, if you want to say Man of Steel was a better movie film, whatever, okay, you're entitled to your opinion. But this was a more true adaptation of Superman, the one that James Gunn did. Yeah, it had some goofy tones in there, but Superman is somewhat at times like goofy, whatever, right? Careful, because he's a inspiring character and stuff like that, and he showed that right there. You've seen the scene in the movie with the children in a foreign country calling for Superman to come and help and save them and stuff like that. So yeah, so I'm stand by this 10 toes down that Zack Snyder was one of the biggest mistakes DC had going for them. It was like the Zack Snyder, how he started off that universe and stuff, you know. And no, I know he had to leave. It was like personal problems, so I give him some grace for that. But in the long, we look back at it, yeah, that was a big mistake that they're still DC is still feeling because they try to really go after the MCU instead of just making own good movies. So they were just chasing. So how would I say they was chasing a dragon basically. Um, that what they did. They should have had Nolan spearheaded this right here. Nolan should have been the one because he was coming. Nolan was hot coming off that Batman trilogy. Even though he was one of the co-writers in Superman, I would also had Nolan directed too because Nolan was real hot, and people said, "Oh, that's Nolan who did Batman and stuff." And then with that, then maybe his Dark Knight, right? Maybe he could have introduced Batman over there, or still let him be elsewhere. But I would have had Nolan. I would have gave that Nolan do something before. That's before even James Gunn was even in the picture. I would have had Nolan doing this Superman. He was already the co-writer. I would have had Nolan directing this as well. But that's just my take on it. Is that the Snyder? I don't really like the Snyderverse crowd because the reason why is because they anything DC that's not Zack Snyder related, they try to shit on and hope it fails and stuff. And anyway, hope it fails, all of that, right? That you're not true DC fans because like the hope that something fails, then you know what's going. Then that means it's going to be another reboot, and then you want the fans to come back and give this reboot a chance. So no, you're doing more harm than good. You want to see something fail, and what no, we want the universe to still stay alive, and then you could even when the universe is still alive, you could have newer directors, whoever come in, whatever. I don't want it to completely go away and then you have to reboot. And that's tiresome for the fans. You constantly keep rebooting and something, right? No, that's not it. And that's what the whole thing, the Snyder fans, the Snyder cult, whatever you want to call them, they want to bring back the Snyder. Trust me, those movies weren't that inspiring from Zack Snyder. I'm just being real. It wasn't. I'd rather fresher, even if James Gunn decides to leave, bring in newer voices and stuff with much fresher ideas to do some things. Have Nolan come and do some things. You have other people out there that you could so and do some things like that. But people deep down, they want to see the DCU fail because it means, oh, James Gunn be going, no. But you have actors and people that's working, putting their livelihoods on the line to make these products that hopefully that we will enjoy. So you look at the Snyderverse; they've been one of the DC Comics' biggest detractors, though, and it shouldn't be like that. They're not true DC fans, in my opinion, because it's all about just restore the Snyderverse. Why not? Hey, I like to see Zack Snyder come and work on this IP from what you call it from DC, like maybe this character. Maybe I love to see Zack Snyder do something with or Orion, Darkseid's son, something like that. But it's always like let's restore the Snyderverse. No, that ship has sailed. The Snyderverse, those characters, that ship is sailed. We need something new and fresh where it's gonna get people to keep coming to the theaters and support this. If you don't, then DC Comics as a movie, only thing you all gonna get is this Batman movie. That's the only thing that seems to do well is the Batman movies. If we keep, if you try to bring back the Snyderverse, because like that's gonna go by the wayside real quick. Because we've seen that done that already. We've seen that already. The DCEU started losing its steam once Zack Snyder wasn't there, which like it got really. I'm not gonna say Zack Snyder completely killed it, but we see what was happening. The fans stopped coming to the theaters to watch these DCEU movies. They stopped coming and stuff like that. So why go back to a past that was a bad past for DC comic movies? Really, we see what the spot they was in. You know how impressive what James Gunn did, what he had to do, all that mess. He didn't come with basically a clean slate like Zack Snyder did. He didn't. Those are the facts. He didn't come with a clean slate. So he had to maneuver all of that, clean that up, come with something, start with the animation, Creature Commandos, Superman, Peacemaker, continue to do Peacemaker season 2, actually, so. Then now you got Supergirl coming. Hopefully Clayface movie is good. So all of that. Then to top it off, 27, we're gonna have Man of Tomorrow. And so also you got the show Atlanta's coming late this summer. So yeah, so it's a lot he has to do, and like oversee this and that. So he's doing many hats. Zack Snyder is not capable of doing the things that James Gunn's doing, right? And it's sad that it's become a Zack Snyder versus James Gunn. And ironically, these guys are real good friends. So, but that's where we're at now in DC. It's basically Zack Snyder versus James Gunn at this point. And I'm not bashing saying Zack Snyder. I just didn't what he tried to do. I think overall, in the end, looking back, it was a bad move, like for DC, in my opinion. And one thing about me, I'm pro DC. I'm not a Snyder fan. I'm not a gun nut, whatever. I'm pro DC. Been collecting the comics book since the '90s, right? So, and I was collecting these characters before people was claiming for Black Harry. I was collecting milestone comics, right? All of that. So, yeah, when Jim Lee was over there at Image doing the Wildcats and all that, I was collecting that. So the comic books, all that stuff, as far as DC, Image, and some Marvel, some Dark Horse, some other independent comic books I collected. Yes, that's what I do. So I'm pro DC. I don't care if it's James Gunn, whoever. As long as DC Comics, actual comic books is coming out, I'm good with that. And if they're going to do TV shows or movie, be respectful to the characters. So you don't have to do a Wonder One. Like, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do a Wonder One. You don't have to do that at all. As long as if you're going, you make it not using an IP, make sure it's like good, whatever. Make sure it's good and entertaining. Fans can come, newer fans can come in and enjoy this. That's all I ask, though. You know, and that's really what I have to say. But all this Snyder movement, because like now you're seeing people it's happy for Paramount now because they think Paramount, because Paramount, here's the thing. You know what I'm saying? Is because Paramount got in bed with these Saudis, they got their money. They think the Saudis like Zack Snyder, whatever. Thinking about, oh yeah, they might bring back the Snyderverse. Oh yeah, we like this Paramount deal, but the same things that they was against with Netflix, the same things that could be said about Paramount. It's gonna be more jobs lost with Paramount. But hey, right? But no one seemed to care about that. You know, long as Netflix doesn't have it, long as it means that James Gunn might be fired. Oh, we're good with the Saudis money, and we probably bring back to restore the Snyderverse. Yay! No, but hey, whatever happens with the deal, that's what's going to happen. But I think DC's was in better hands with Zack Snyder not touching the main universe. Elsewhere movie, like I said, cool, fine, let him do that. If you want to do an Elsewhere's movie, fine, let him do that. But I would let see James Gunn complete his vision for us of DC. Right, and it would be a shame he would leave because maybe his politics doesn't line up, with the Ellison's politics. The Ellison's has been aligned with Trump. So it's not so much James Gunn's going to get fired. He'll probably just walk away, because if there's any creative interference, then James Gunn will probably just walk away. And that'll be the sad thing. But even if he does walk away, I still hope his vision is still carried out with his plan he had set forth. Because like Peter Safran is still there, so I think even if James Gunn decided was to leave, I think Peter Safran still would be there. He'll probably have someone come in and still carry out that vision, because you're already, it'll be crazy just to completely reboot that and whatnot. So let's see what happens. But like I said, I'm pro DC Comics, and I really hope that we don't see another Snyderverse, restore the Snyderverse move. I don't care about the Snyderverse coming back. Now, like I said, Zack Snyder, if he want to do like some Dark Knight movie or Elsewhere type of thing, cool. I'm all for that, right? I'm not saying he should. I'm just saying, for as the mainline DCU, I seen that enough with Zack Snyder. I like to see it continue. How where DCU is at right now, I like to see this continue. Let this all play out without, I don't want to see no Justice League 2 or 3, Man of Steel 2. No, I don't want to see none of that. Right? Now, if Zack Snyder wanted to do something like a Red Sun Superman Elsewhere movie, cool, right? Because that was a pretty good story, though. Or if he was, I don't know, perfect thing for Zack Snyder would do will be Superman War World, right, with the Mongol and stuff. Now, if you want to do like an Elsewhere movie or that, right, with Henry Cavill, like in War World, I wouldn't mind that at all, right? I think that would be cool, like certain settings. But like for as the main line where DCU, let it be as that, and you can still do other characters though. Like I think too bad they couldn't get the authority off and running. I think Zack Snyder been good with the authority. That'd been something good he probably could have did. But yeah, that's all I want to say for now. But at the end of the day, the DCEU was probably one of the worst things that happened in DC. You know how it all finished, how it all played out and stuff. You know, early on it had potential, but it's not how you start; it's how you finish. Though at the end of the day, and you're gonna be judged by that. So the DCEU was a failure, a big time failure. So let's hope we don't repeat that same thing, and let the Snyderverse, what Snyder did, that's over. That's done. Kaput. Let's on to new and better things. Hopefully, we get that. Like I said, I'm all for DC. And I'll bring you more video updates of things I see. With coverage of Supergirl, all that. I'm gonna give y'all that too. But this Snyderverse thing, we saw the Snyderverse, kill that noise. They had their time. It's over. It over like the '90s, right? So yeah. Let's move forward and let's see what James Gunn could do. Whoever new comes over, like I said, I wouldn't mind Nolan taking over. I wouldn't mind seeing who's it? Matt Reeves do more stuff. I wouldn't mind seeing Coogler do maybe have Coogler do a static or milestone stuff as well. That's what I would like to see. Maybe we see Jonathan Stewart maybe get a mainline movie as well. It's going to start with the opposite land, so maybe he could get like a mainline movie as well. And remember, when it makes sense for him to do lanterns, because there's a whole lot of Green Lanterns out there that you could do. So I said enough, right? Yeah, I don't want to go on rambling and stuff, but yeah, man, the Snyderverse, I don't really care for it. Let's see what DC can do moving going forward with new ideas and stuff. Keep this universe still intact and just continue to build upon it. Whether James Gunn here or not, continue to build upon this universe. That's all I got for now. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm out here to the next one.